Okay, yeah, so just a quick blade rewiring. This is just how I do it. I try to do it as much, within the comfort of my own home. That way you guys can see you can pretty much do it anywhere. Just need a few tools. So I hope you enjoy. If there's other ways you do it, any other tips, put them down in the comments. And otherwise, yeah, if you like these kind of stream styles where I answer questions, obviously let me know. So enjoy the small show, and I hope that you can learn to rewire a blade, or at least have to. Whenever I start to go wire a blade, uh, I make sure that there's that it's relatively clean on the inside, specifically like right here in the dimple. But even more importantly, in the tip itself. So you can see here we kind of have a very hollow. We can see through it. And what I did beforehand is I got a knife. So this is my blade knife, my shanking knife. What's up, buddy? How are you doing? Urox, that's our boy from the Virgin Islands. I ran it through to make sure it's all smooth, and you can really tell from the noise, right? When it's going through, it sounds smooth, which is a really weird thing to say when you're holding a knife. All right, it's nice and smooth. And then in the tip, this is the most important part. So before you even start, make sure you got everything you need, because you don't want to be scrambling, because it's a relatively quick process. All right, make sure you got your tip. Make sure you got extra parts, a wire. Specifically, very important, to wire. Your tip screws, and perhaps some small springs should you need them. Your pliers or your wrenches. And I personally have a little chain that I use to hold the blade together while I'm wiring. You can also do this with you can actually do it with like a shoelace or something. And then make sure you have your glue on hand. And I like to keep like a crappy rag, just because sometimes glue will start going all over the place. You gotta just get that out of here. Let's get going. So first off, and then, see, I already goofed. Where's my screwdriver? There it is. And then we need our screwdriver. Yeah, you can do it you can do it on a door frame. Yeah, like you can buy the chains for like 10, 12 bucks. Some people, I like this goopy Gorilla Glue. Clear grip one. It takes a bit longer to set. It's not good for fast fixes, but it'll hold off longer. I don't really have any glues. I try to stay away from glues that are like way too liquid, because then when you put it down, like it just runs down and you don't have time to react. So it's not like dummy proof. If you make like even a small mistake, it's really hard. So we're gonna open up this tip. I bought obviously like hashtag sponsored, but I got, will it focus for me? Probably not. It's an almond titanium one. But they just look cool. I like that they're gold. So we're gonna take off the tip screws. Right, so we're gonna boom. And then if you're having trouble like with tip screws staying in places, just buy like I have this tiny magnet. Basically just everything falls on it. So I'm never having too many issues with losing anything. Right, I have this tiny magnet, everything falls on it. So then if I need something, it's all on here. And then also you can remagnetize your screwdriver should you need to. So now, we got two things. We got our blade. I'm just gonna put this here so it doesn't go anywhere. I'm gonna grab my wire. If I can open this bag. There you go. Got our wire. Yeah, I find like a nice long setting glue, like the wiring itself will always last longer. So just as long as you have a bit more time to actually wire your blade, you've got more, like you'll have to do it less often. With some of the quicker ones, like they dry, then they dry fast, but then they kind of crisp up, and then like one bad bend, and then just pops out. Obviously, to each their own, right? I've wired blades with fast drying glues many times, and they've held for quite some time themselves, so it's not too much of a deal. But it's just how I like to do things. There's many ways. I'm sure your coaches might not do it the way I do, just as much obviously as I don't do it the way they do. So one thing I make sure, right? Make sure there's no like, right? Make sure there's nothing exposed, no exposed copper wiring. At the tip here, we've got both our ends. We're happy. So what I do here is I run it through the tip, right? The tip is hollow. So we run it, right? Run it through the tip. It's hollow. Oh, here are my sources. Trust me, bro. There it is. So then let's put it through. And obviously after the fact, I'll save this recording on YouTube. And if you miss any steps, you can always go back, right? So now what I do is I put it most of the way, make sure this is straight. And then we put it in, and you see how, like I make sure the wire is in the blade, right? And then I hold it down with my thumb, and I can twist this in as much as I can with my hands. And then you see this will still go. This can still have some wiggle room. And then this is how I know I did a good job with hollowing it out. And then I can actually just pull it down. Don't pull too hard. If you have to pull hard, you're doing it wrong. And then I just kind of give it a little push with my screwdriver. Or you can even just grab the tip that you have, obviously, right? Because you have a full tip, and just push it down to make sure it's nice and in there. So now this is good. I'm happy with this. Right? We're gonna make sure that we're not crushing the wire. You see the wire? They're separate. And we're gonna. You can either use lock pliers or just 2 sets of wrenches. That's how I like to do it. Adjustable wrenches are very small. But for the record, if you want to buy just one size wrench fits all, it's 6 millimeters for this. 6 millimeters. I prefer to have adjustable ones just because I like to fix other things other than fencing stuff on my spare time. And then we just twist this bad boy on. All right, we twist. And it's important to have something here because otherwise all the pressure, like you'll twist the tip. Right, so you need to make sure you have something that locks the tip in place at the base. And then here, this is nice and tight, right? You shouldn't over tighten. Yeah, I just put the tip in to verify it's in place. So, let's keep going. And then we just keep going. And then what's important here is you shouldn't rush yourself. Every time I've like rushed a blade wiring job, I've been sad at the end. So then I'm just pulling, right? I'm applying a bit of pressure. And you see I'm making sure the wire goes inside this dimple here. Then I pull. I put my thumb here. I personally don't use thread lock. I don't, for the amount of times it's like useful, to the amount of times it's not. It's never made a huge difference for me. So I personally don't think like it's worth it. And then now I've got my chain. So we're not going to skip this step. So when you have it kind of tight in here, just make sure, right, that the wires, like don't cross the streams, right? Make sure the wires are nice and flat together, because otherwise if they cross, then the blade bends. There's a chance that the blade will snap or there'll be a connection. And then boom, there you are. You're in the middle of a bout. Suddenly your weapons are grounding. You have no idea why, and it's really hard to dissect. So what I'll do is just run, like you can run the your screwdriver just across between the two to make sure nothing's tangled up anywhere. Then we're good. So here we are. So here, yeah. So some people like to use like a door frame. You can even see here, I could potentially bend the blade there. I'll show you guys after. So now I have this chain thing. It's just like, it's got a cap at the end. I can just grab it. And then make sure the wire is still in the blade. No, I mean, unless you're scraping crazy hard, it's not going to remove the insulation layer. Like, you're just running it very softly to make sure that the wires are just not crossing. Right? You're not scraping it, you're just kind of like sliding it along. Just make sure you're not scraping there. And then I just make a little knot. And life's good, right? This nice and make sure it's nice and stable. That way you don't get a blade to the eye when you start. You see, this is nice and tight, but I'll show you guys. Or like even in my kitchen, right? Just over here. I've got so many things I can do, right? I can go over here. I can technically go like that. Like this. This will do. Like you could, there's a lot of ways you can bend the blade. Just, you know, depending where you live. The old Belgium grip. That's what I'm using right now. Just for my hand. The French grip is a no-go. Unfortunately still, but that's alright. But like, yeah, just make sure, right, obviously in your house, if you got kids or what have you, make sure it's somewhere safe, because that blade snaps, you know, just snaps off from the wall. Ooh. So, personally, I like to start. So this is why, and this here, when you open your glue, most glues kind of start running off too fast. So just make sure, okay, so it's, I just like, I grab my shitty rag here, and then I just kind of make sure my nozzle is clean. So now when I start pouring, I'm ready. So I personally like to go bottom up. And what's important, remember, you can always add a bit more glue later. It's very, very hard to remove. So just take your time. So I'm going to try to do this sitting down while talking through it. I start at the base, right? I'm just in the middle here. Then I'm just applying light pressure. And I'm going all the way down my blade. Not to be mistaken with going down on my blade. Oof. Safe Sport would not approve. And then, right, so it's hard on this angle. Then I'm gonna go down. Ooh. And then I keep going down. Boom. So you'll notice, yeah, like, yeah, some spots are a little icky. So I'm gonna wipe those off right away with my knife. I'm just gonna run my knife real quick to make sure. But then when the glue dries, it's not a big deal. You can actually just like rip it off. I'll show you guys after. It's really not a big deal. Just make sure you're not like overflowing with glue, because that's an actual nightmare. So we're just gonna rub a little off. Done deal. So some advice, don't get the titanium. Oh, I see. Yeah, so the titanium tips are so strong that they're harder than the actual steel, and they crack the tip. Interesting. Okay, noted. Maybe that's why I had a blade where I put a titanium one and that happened. So now, basically, all I have to do now is wait. I'm going to hang this upside down somewhere. Where can I do that? Where can I do that on camera? So, as long as it's hanging upside down, where can I do that? Didn't think this went through. Usually, like, I'll do it on my door or something. So, 1 second. Alright, there. I've got this chair I got here. I'm just gonna rest it on the back here. Basically, for me, what's really important is that the blade is down. So any excess glue is gonna run down. Because otherwise, if I hang it up or down, like it's gonna go either into the blade or into the tip. And if you made a mistake, you're gonna be sad and you gotta restart. So now, all we can do is wait, right? So what do we do when we wait? We have fun and we watch Italian fencing. So that's what's on the agenda for today. I lost the cap of my glue, but that's all right. I got sidetracked. I'll figure that out. Ah, 347. This man. Thank you, James Luke, for buying me a Coke Zero. You're an absolute legend. Thank you, sir. No, but seriously, where'd the cap go? Well, that'll happen. That's okay. Ah, I dropped it. So there we go. So I'm just gonna make, so for when I cut this up for YouTube, I'm just gonna go like that. So when I can cut it up, and I know. Man, James, thank you. You've actually like donated even on New Year's, so just really appreciate it. So I'm gonna give you a bunch of hearts, and then, you know, boom. I really appreciate it. Even though, you know, just for a Coke Zero, what have you, it means a lot. This glue does smell a lot. So yeah, does this glue have a strong smell? Absolutely, it does smell a lot. So I would recommend, right, do it. Like my kitchen is relatively aerated, so you'll be okay. I'll be okay. But I wouldn't recommend, right? Make sure it's your windows open or something, because this does smell a little bit. So we're chilling with our blade, right? Let's watch some fencing. I usually give it half an hour, and so usually it's fine. So now, we're going to go back to my blade, because it should be ready. Right, so I've gone to my blade. My glue is pretty much dry. You see it finishing, like, yeah, there's little spots that, like, are looking ugly. But, like, with this glue, I can actually just kind of, like, literally rip it off. I'll show you guys in a sec. We see, like, just the excess bits, I can just grab them, throw it on the floor, and then make my wife clean it. Just kidding. I hope she's not watching. Right, and then we're going to pull that out. Pull that out, and then just, right, we have a blade with a wire in it. How do we do that? And then just the next spots, I'll just give you guys how I do it. Right, we have our wire now. So a lot of people, like, yeah, you get your little spaghetti wires, and a lot of people try to, like, just brute force it. Like, realistically, right, we're not going to use all of this wire, right? So I'm actually going to scrape a lot of the copper here. And now that the copper, like a lot of the insulation off, and now that that's happened, I can just slide it on. So let's just slide that on there. And then now that there's a little bit out here, I can just hold on and pop it all the way down. Rinse, wash, repeat with the other side. Scrape a bit of the insulation off, and then of course do the same thing again. Thank you. Of course, buddy. You're always welcome. And it's not easy to put out the videos like up in front of me, right? So you're doing what you can with what you got. Why is it not going through? So let's keep looking. Come on now. So make sure it's straight. If it's not going through well, just straighten out the actual copper. Keep going. Try again. Getting there, and then we just keep pushing it through. There you go. And then once the copper pops out on the other side, we can just slide it on down. Then I would say, right, make sure that the insulator, like the little insulation tube, goes at least, like there's at least a little bit that's there, so that way it's covering the wires when they bend around near the tang. Alright, so I try to leave like, I don't know, a couple of millimeters. Now there we go, right? We have our blade. I'm gonna grab my bell guard. Is this the right one? Where's my bell guard? As I said earlier, make sure you have everything near you so you don't have to rush, eh? Oh, this is the one. Okay, yeah. So, my bell guard. I'm actually trying out the Max Heinzer one. It's very light, but man, is it flimsy. And then we're going to run that through. So we run it through, right? So we put our bell guard. It's in. Our insulation is still safe. Secondly, grab our plug. Put it through. Make sure the plug goes through. Otherwise, it's going to crush the wires. You're going to have to start again. Now, this is the best time because you'll see here you have the little holes, right? And you have to actually put the wires through that. So we're going to run that through. And run it through here, all right? All right, now as that's run through, we bring it down. So I'll show you guys in just one sec. Right, as you can see, right, it's running through the wires through the hoops. We're happy. We now put on a little felt or a little cushion. As of right now, I'm actually using these Belgium grips. I'm getting my Belgium grip in. So you'll see that there's, like here, right, there's a spot. You're going to line it up with where the two wires are meeting. You're going to make sure it doesn't crush the wire. And then we're going to grab up. So we grab our bolt, right? Our nut bolt. And we go in. If you want, you can add a little round washer. That way it creates a little pressure. I typically don't, but like if you want to, you absolutely can. That's not a bad idea. And then we're just gonna grab our Allen key. This is a 6mm Allen key. I'm gonna twist that in. Just boom. So when it's, we're not gonna tighten it all the way because we're just gonna make sure that everything is kind of like how we want it, right? I like to twist my grips a little bit. That way my blade is in 6 by default. What's important to make sure, very important, are these little wires lined up with the dimple inside my guard? And they are, so we're good with this. So now I'm going to tighten this and be happy with myself. Give that a nice squeeze. Boom. Yeah. So I've done that. So now We're good. We're happy. Right, our insulation here is good. What I'll probably do after too is, like, if you need to, just make sure it's in there. You can grab a flathead screwdriver, and I just kind of make sure they're in there, not sticking out. And if it's particularly bad, here's where a drop of quick dry glue could do you some good. Then here, right? So now we have one more issue. We have our wires here. So you see how there's a bit of insulation here. A lot of competitions, they don't want you to have any copper exposed. So I'm gonna go right here. Right here. Just right here. I don't know if this is ASMR to anyone, but for me this is so calming. I love doing this. It's just so chill, right? Just building weapons. I feel like I'm in a forge. Alright, so then you see here. It's just, I'm just at the end, right? See, I have just enough copper. I'll wrap it around, and this is so much easier when you have a lot of material, because then I can just wrap that copper around, right? My copper's been wrapped around just once. Don't do it more than once, because otherwise there's too much material crushing each other, and it'll actually get looser later and just break. And now I grab my flathead screwdriver. If you don't have that, like, honestly, like a rounded edge butter knife will do you some good as well, because it fits very nicely in these rivets here. So there you go. And then after that, you just kind of, well, you know, a little whoop, 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 and then it falls off. Just wiggle it around a bit. So now I'm happy with this. Just for reference, this were a French grip. You would do something very similar, but instead you line up the rivet. You line your little dimple, and your French grip would be here. And instead of having the wash nut, you'd have a pommel that we then just boop, boop, twist that in, and there you go. Bob's your uncle. You have your French grip. So now the last piece of the puzzle. Da 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 da. We have our tip. So, we're not going to adjust it today. This is like, I'm just going to use this to get a lesson today. So then we're looking, right? So I've already got the little spring on. So when I put it in, we can already see that the contact happens way too early. This is illegal. Well, illegal. So I'm going to eyeball it. Just going to eyeball it. Right? So how do I eyeball it? I grab my fingers, right? And there's this little spring here. I'm going to twist this hand. Right? You want to twist this spring clockwise. That'll actually, like, bring it in and make it shorter. Right, now I can see I'm okay with this. Like, I'm comfortable training with this. I have about the size of a fingernail. That's okay. It's about 0.5. For training purposes, that's fine. If you guys obviously want to see a competition weapon breakdown, that's fine too. So now we're going to grab a brick spring. We're going to pop it in. You see, inside here we have our wire. With our tube, right? There's a little tube. The big spring is actually just gonna fall in. See, just falls in, and it's pretty flush. So now when we push that down, boom. So now from earlier, I'm gonna grab my trusty screwdriver that seems to go missing pretty much every time I do something new. There it is. This is a tiny screwdriver, and here I have. If you want a little hack, right, I keep the magnet on the screwdriver, and it kind of magnetizes the whole thing. Then we have our tip screw. Hopefully I can get that in there for you. There you go. Sorry, so we got our tip screw in. And you'll see here, right on the side, obviously, there's the little holes for the tip screws. So we're going to line those up, bring it down. So just line it up properly. Sometimes you'll, test your patience. There you go. we line it up properly, and then we just twist, right, as one would with a screwdriver. And then when it's nice and tight, oh, so it looks like this screw in particular was stripped, which is all right. That's why we have more. So there you go. So that one's going in nicely. Or not. Huh. So that's alright. So there's something wrong with this tip. That's awkward. So let's do it. Let's try again. Might be the tip screws. I'm not sure. It's okay. Let's try the other side sometimes. Why is it not lining up? Nani? Unlucky. What the fuck? There you go. So that's sticking in there nicely, and I need one more tip screw. All right, and basically, right? Oof. Basically, that's all there is to wiring a blade. So, I mean, obviously I use longer drying glue, but it's nice and worth it. So, it's not, wow, this is being a pain. That's all right. It's kind of good that I can show you guys that it's a bit of a pain in the butt to wire a blade and get the tip screw in, because it doesn't always go perfectly. There you go. So, we have ourselves a blade. All good. So, gonna go have myself a lesson at the club later. So, there we have it, guys. You know, we wired a blade, watched some fencing, helped a few people out. So, I hope you all have a fantastic day and a better rest of your week. And I'll see you guys in the next one. And if you guys can do me a favor and watch some ads for me, I'd be very grateful. So, insert ad. And then I'm just gonna make sure that this works, obviously, while I'm here. Got my trusty tester. And it works. Test. Very nice. And cage. Boom. Boom. Life is good, guys. One more for the road. I appreciate you all. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day.